Welcome to Week in One, the show that gives you a quick roundup of the week's top stories done by our reporters, as well as the big interviews done by our anchors on eNCA. I'm Aviwe Mtila. Now let's get straight into it. Gauteng grade 1 to 8 parents struggle to get their children placed into schools. The health minister updates on the new highly transmissible COVID-19 subvariant XBB 1.5. And President Cyril Ramaphosa files a replying affidavit in application to interdict former President Jacob Zuma from privately prosecuting him. We start here. If you are a parent of a school-going child, chances are this week has been a very stressful one for you. We kicked off the news week with a big focus on the reopening of inland schools for the new school year.
Large school Danny Milan is in the spotlight after a group of parents camped outside the school demanding their children to be enrolled. The Gauteng Education Department says there's no space at the primary school and that they are working on assisting affected pupils. However, some parents were unhappy about this.
I was yesterday. I was very concerned for the safety. I was here from the morning. I dropped him off. It was his first day at school. He's grade arts. It's very first day. So I was here outside just waiting because I was scared. They were pulling on the gates and things like that. So I was just scared, thinking that if the gates were open, I would just run and grab my kid and run to the office.
On Wednesday, an altercation took place outside the school. Affected parents accused the school of not wanting to enforce transformation. The clashes have caused safety concerns among parents of children already enrolled at the school.
The truth! Tell 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 the truth!
We're going to fight this on until our learners get space, because it's a black child sitting at home. It's unconstitutional. And what we told the government officials yesterday was that in terms of the Constitution and their legal powers, the minister has got the power to open access to all learners, irrespective of race.
The Gauteng Education Department says it will monitor the situation and provide counseling for the children who witnessed the violence. Spokesperson Steve Mabona says officials have met with the school's management to pave a way forward.
Our officials were here yesterday already. They interacted with the school and they've been here before. Remember the process of placement. We need to interact with our schools. If we need a school to increase capacity, we interact with our schools. So our officials have been here throughout just to understand on how we're going to be assisting each other.
Teaching will continue as normal, but some parents who live close to the school have vowed to give the school until next week Wednesday to respond to their demands and place their children at Danny Milan. Bule Litchiti Jones in Pretoria North.
Gauteng Education MEC Matome Chilwane is urging parents to accept placement offers as soon as possible in order to free up space. Chilwane says over 5,000 applicants have not yet accepted their offers, and this clogs the system. I spoke to him during a live crossing this week. The parents at the Ekurhuleni North District offices tell us that they were told that the schools are full, so their children won't be placed by tomorrow. They, in fact, were told that transfers won't be done, appeals won't be done, so it's better to go home. Surely this can't be the response that those hundreds to 1,000 plus parents are receiving at the district level.
Thank you. Good morning to you. Good morning to your viewers. Let me start with the conduct of those officials. They were not correct to say that. They shouldn't have said that. If there is we urge the parents to bring it to our attention in some form or the other, to say this is how they were treated in the district. Now, to respond to schools being full, yes, the schools are full, but we are putting in place measures to ensure that the kids are placed. That's why in our press conference we had to inform them that we are increasing the capacity in terms of mobiles. We've given schools money to build classrooms, but also we ask them to look at other rooms, specialist rooms in the schools, such as libraries, computer labs, etc., to open it up so that they can convert them to classrooms. So to those parents, those 501 grade 8 learners' parents, I'm saying to them that their kids will be placed. You know, this is a high pressure area, and that's based on its development. There's a lot of development in the area, so more parents are bringing their kids closer to their schools.
Meanwhile, in the West Rand, frustrations over the Gauteng online application system have reached startling levels. Angry parents are threatening to shut down the district offices if their children aren't placed in schools this week. Scores of parents queued outside the offices for most of the week, and eNCA's Mangoba Mchunu was there.
We're not actually getting any help. We're waiting for someone to give us letters, but unfortunately it's not here. Everyone is waiting for letters.
These people are failing us. We are here since in the morning. What they are doing to us.
These are some of the sentiments of frustrated parents who've been queuing here for the past 3 days. While thousands of pupils reported for day one of schooling, some grade 1 and grade 8 pupils spent the day outside the district office with their parents, hoping for answers.
I did apply last year, August, and then I got a placement at a school, the one that I didn't apply to. But the 2 schools that I chosen, they didn't give me the answer to it. So since I was here, after I get that reply, that this school, I don't know it, I don't even know the uniform.
But many were left disappointed as officials could not assist them.
Right now, my child is at home. When I came here at the Department of Education, it was around about 7. They told me that they were going to respond yesterday. Okay. They did not respond.
However, parents insist their fight won't end here.
There's no way we are going to spend another week with our kids at home. There's no way. So tomorrow I'm pleading with the parents. We are not fighting anybody. We are not bending any tires. We just come with our kids. We close the gate because that means this office is useless. It's not rendering us anything. So they must close this office. It must be open maybe in Mpumalanga. Maybe it will serve the people of Mpumalanga.
The Gauteng Education Department says it's still processing appeals. These parents, though, are threatening to bring the office to a standstill on Thursday if their concerns are not addressed. Mangoba Mchunu, Randfontein.
Coming up after the break, we showcase some of the big interviews our anchors did this week. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Week in One. I am Avi Mtila. Now let's head to the Free State, where ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa delivered his January 8 statement in Mangaung on Sunday, following his re-election last month. Now Ramaphosa says the ANC will be prioritizing the party's renewal, fighting corruption, growing the economy, and solving the energy crisis. He sat down with Professor JJ Tabane to unpack what the future looks like for the ruling party.
Few minutes remaining. What confidence can you give them that you will sort out the electricity crisis in this country?
Well, I know you would like me to comment on everything. If a fly were to, just sit on your forehead, you would want me to comment about that.
No, not
so
really.
I don't need
I just want to comment on Eskom.
I don't need to comment on everything. I don't need to be commenting because I've got ministers whose job is to deal with these matters. And they are the ones who deal with this. For instance, the appointment of a new CEO.
Yeah.
I don't have to comment about that. The board is in place to deal with that. Otherwise, why did we appoint
Why
a
did you
board?
come back from overseas because of load shedding?
Yeah, but I come
if you are so blasé about
I come back
about
because
that
I have to deal with the problems.
Yeah.
And if I don't come back, they say, he's out there
in England,
hip hopping with whoever, and he's not here. And that is the way our people.
But that's why you are president.
This. Yeah. And so you are absolutely right. I do something, I'm at fault. I don't do it, I'm at fault. Similarly, in the way that you are approaching all these matters.
Well, you are praised why CEO was fired. Why Eskom CEO was fired?
No, he was not fired. He resigned. He resigned because it's a really tough job. And I really applaud and honor anybody who would want to take as difficult a job as that, just like being president of South Africa. Anybody who takes that job, I, in a way, take off my hat for them, because it's a difficult job. It's not an easy job. And with regards to Eskom, we all know, and you should know by now, that Eskom's problems did not start 5 years or 7 years ago.
Yeah, they started with your ANC 15 years ago,
yes, indeed,
ignoring advice.
But you see, we're not the only country that is going through energy challenges. This happens, and it's happening in many, many other countries. The good thing, though, with us is that we are dealing with a problem. In July, I announced a number of measures that are currently being implemented. And we did say this is going to take some time. And I did also say that load shedding, yes, will keep coming back to haunt us. And that's exactly where we are. Our electricity grid has not collapsed. We still have electricity. We are now settled with having to live through regular load shedding, which is being addressed. And as it gets addressed, we are going to be upgrading our availability of energy. We want 18,000 megawatts. But I also said, if you listen very carefully, I said, we also need to resort to emergency, to emergency power that can be brought on board so that we are able to close this gap. So this is a problem that nobody is sleeping on the job on.
Human rights lawyer Richard Spoor says the company that owns the truck involved in the deadly Boksburg explosion must face consequences. Spoor says the company is liable for negligence on the part of the driver. He spoke to eNCA anchor Marcel Gordon on SA Tonight.
That did make headline news, the fact that the truck owners were cleared by that third-party probe that they, of course, commissions. But that's not where their legal responsibility ends, is it?
Not at all. The company looked at regulatory compliance. Were the permits in place? Did the driver have the correct license? Had he been retested? What were the procedures in place at the company, the formal procedures, that is? And this is what the audit commissioned by the company provided and said that they were in compliance. But the fact of the matter is that they get judged against a civil standard, a common law standard. And there's no question whatsoever that in that respect, the driver was negligent and the employer is vicariously liable for the wrongdoing, the neglect of its employee. So as to whether or not the company has a civil case to answer, the question is answered in the affirmative. They do.
What would your advice be to a family impacted by this explosion?
Well, first of all, that they do have a right. I think that's pretty clear. And I think it's important to just spell out what that is. This driver was transporting a very dangerous load, a hazardous load. And the rules that pertain to the transportation of hazardous loads are relatively simple. 1, you plan your route in advance. 2, you don't deviate from that route. When the driver mistakenly took a wrong turning, he should have stopped. He should have taken instructions. His superiors should have cleared a route for him, and he should follow that route. By taking the initiative as his own self to follow another route, to decide whether or not a bridge was high enough to accommodate his truck, that was negligent. Look, it's a difficult case. I think to the extent that there are complexities flowing from this case, it's about the possibility of contributory negligence on the part of the Ekurhuleni municipality and their emergency services. There is no question that if the Ekurhuleni municipality had complied with the standard operating procedures applicable to emergency response services, this casualty rate wouldn't have been what it was.
Our minister in the presidency, Mondli Ngubele, says government is taking security at higher education institutions seriously. He spoke to eNCA anchor Dan Moyane about this after the University of Forte Vice-Chancellor appealed to President Cyril Ramaphosa to ensure his safety. Professor Sakele Buhlungu survived an apparent assassination attempt last week.
What is the presidency's response to his appeal?
The president's view is that intervention by the minister and a lot of other respective relevant structures should be given a chance in dealing with this matter, both from the point of ensuring that there are investigations that are going on without being interrupted, and also the minister intervening in engaging all stakeholders and looking at all the other aspects that are actually affecting the entire situation of water, because we attach a lot of significance in the stability of Forte so that it can be an institution that is preferred by the highest talented lecturers who must actually prefer it as an area where they can deliver the service of human capital development.
You must be worried and concerned because this is not how our institutions of higher learning, this is not how they should be operating. This is not the kind of situation they should be facing.
I agree with you, brother. Institutions of learning, be it higher learning or be it basic education, should be the sacred place for learning, should be the places of peace for human development. They should be deterrent to criminality. As I'm talking to you now, I'm going through a briefing by my team with regard to what is it that we are supposed to understand. We are getting deeper to that situation. I will be engaging the Minister of Police in this matter. And I think it's not just the issue of Forte. I have already asked them to brief me about other relevant institutions. I discussed with the Minister of Higher Education. We've already had killings in KwaZulu-Natal. And at some stage, I was briefed by the Vice Chancellor of UNISA about some of the threats that are there. And there is a need to deal with the entire threat analysis of these institutions and actually make sure that we do our best to extricate or remove criminality in those institutions because of the nature of sensitivity, because of the delicacy of the sort of service they give to society. Not that crime is accepted anywhere else, but at least you must send a message that it can be tolerated here.
I'll stay tuned to Week in One. Coming up, the Health Minister provides updates on the COVID-19 situation in South Africa. That's after this short break. Welcome back to Week in One. I am Aviwem Tila. No restrictions or travel bans to be reintroduced. Now that's the word from Health Minister Joe Phaahla following the news that South Africa has recorded its first case of the new highly transmissible COVID-19 subvariant XBB 1.5. eNCA senior reporter Silindelo Masikane has more.
Researchers and scientists at the Stellenbosch University identified the subvariant through a random sample, but not much is known about who it belongs to. Following a meeting with the National Coronavirus Command Council and the World Health Organization, South Africa has been advised to increase surveillance.
The advice that we have received is that there is no need to impose any travel restrictions on any country, including People's Republic of China, and that we also do not need to reimpose any restrictions internally in our own country.
The South African Medical Association says it doesn't see the need for the surveillance of wastewater.
I'm just not sure about the approach of using wastewater surveillances. I don't understand how that is going to assist in terms of fight against this variant.
Meanwhile, some healthcare professionals are experiencing some anxiety at the possibility of another wave of infections.
Nurses on the ground, healthcare professionals generally, they have lost hope from those in positions of authority, because remember, during COVID-19, our hope was to say we will see an increase. We will kiss goodbye the challenge of the gross shortage of staff challenge, the gross shortage of material resources challenge.
Omicron remains the dominant variant of concern locally and around the world, but the health department insists South Africa's vaccination immunity and natural immunity is still very strong. No major increases in hospitalizations or the death rate have been recorded so far. Slinda Lomasigan, Cape Town.
Nelson Mandela Bay is continuing to experience its worst drought in decades. The Metro says it cannot meet the daily demand of 286 megalitres of water. Dam levels are sitting below the 15% mark with no end to the 7-year drought in sight. Now, eNCA's Ronald Masinda reports.
Dubai residents say that the situation has become unbearable. The elderly have to wait for long hours for a truck carrying water to fill water inside their tank.
Very, very difficult. The situation here is becoming worse by the day. We have no water here, and there are people here, old people here staying here, and disabled people. These people need water, especially when they go to toilet, because you can't go to toilet without water. This water tank at the back of me, that thing is dry, there's no water there.
The municipality says it can no longer meet the demand of 286 megalitres water per day. It has also raised concerns about how some residents use water.
We are actually sitting around 272 megalitres on a daily basis, but that has actually increased to 286 megalitres on a daily basis. So we have picked up consumption, and we would actually want to urge residents, to reduce consumption. Otherwise, we're going to actually experience the intermittent supply, in the next coming weeks.
The southern and southwestern suburbs, there's about 100, over 100 suburbs that is mostly dependent on the water from the dams. So those are the areas that where the water shortage is critical.
Dam levels in the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality are declining at an alarming rate, raising concerns as to whether or not the municipality will be able to assist many residents who are struggling with water. Ronald Masinda, Garieja.
To legal matters, all eyes were on the South Gauteng court this week as the first high-profile legal showdown for 2023 took place in what has been dubbed the Battle of the Presidents. President Cyril Ramaphosa wants the court to block former President Jacob Zuma's private prosecution bid against him. Zuma, meanwhile, contends that Ramaphosa is an accessory after the fact in his case against prosecutor Billy Downer. eNCA's Moloko Moloto has the story.
It's a battle of the two presidents. Incumbent President Cyril Ramaphosa wants the High Court to stop his nemesis Jacob Zuma from having him appear in court as a criminally charged person next Thursday. Zuma accuses Ramaphosa of being an accessory after the fact, saying the president failed to institute an inquiry into senior prosecutor Advocate Billy Downer, whom he accuses of leaking his medical certificate to journalist Karen Mon.
We were actively wanting to refrain from getting into this thing about the ANC conference and step-aside rule and what have you. But they keep on forcing it on us because they raise it in their correspondence, they raise it in their papers. I have one thing and one thing only to say about it. The entire step-aside debate is actually evidence that this court should not grant this relief. Why? Because on their own version, the so-called step-aside rule kicks in. So the harm related to the step-aside rule kicks in once you are charged. Right? So that has happened already on the 15th of December 2022.
Ramaphosa says Zuma's private prosecution is unconstitutional based on a non-prosecution certificate which doesn't implicate him, and if allowed to commence with a criminal case, he will suffer irreparable harm. Ramaphosa's lawyer says by refusing to withdraw next week's criminal case and wait for the court to adjudicate on the validity of the non-prosecution certificate, which forms Part B of the president's application, is confirmation Zuma has ulterior motives.
He doesn't want to do that. He says, well, the president wants to avoid appearance next week. Yes, because that harms his rights. But where are the rights of Mr. Zuma that will be harmed if he simply removes the thing from the road and let Part B be expedited? Both my other friend and I have litigated in this court. We know how efficient this court is in providing earlier dates for Part B review. Why can't he do that? Because there is an ulterior purpose. He wants him in that door for his political reasons.
After the full bench of judges, which included the deputy judge president, listened to arguments, the court reserved judgment to Monday morning. Moluko Molot, Johannesburg.
And that's a wrap for this week's edition of Week in One. From myself, Aviwe Mtila, and the brilliant Week in One team, goodbye.